recovery. Bringing back New York City, a recovery for all of us, depends on vaccination. From the very beginning, I've said, it's up to you, New York. It's up to New Yorkers to get it right, and New Yorkers have answered the call time and time again. New Yorkers have done the right thing. And now our city employees are doing the right thing. We said we would climb the ladder of vaccination mandates to help us move forward, to keep our employees safe, to keep all the people they serve safe, to keep their families safe, our neighborhoods safe, our city safe. Time and time again, we put the mandates in place, and they've worked with health and hospitals, largest public health system in America, 95% plus vaccination level now. With Department of Education, largest public school system in America, 96% plus now, continuing to grow. But we need to go farther, to go where very few cities or states have done in this country. Very few have gone to this place of a full vaccination mandate for all employees. But it's time. I'm going to say up front to every mayor in America, every governor in America, to every CEO of a company in America, go to a full vaccination mandate, because it will allow us to end the COVID era once and for all. We got to end it. This is how we do it. So now we know we have real results from this mandate, and as of today, 91% of our city workforce is vaccinated, 91%, and growing, and that's important, and growing. We want everyone to do the right thing, get vaccinated. Anyone who hasn't so far, there's still a chance to fix it. Come in, get vaccinated, come back to work, because we need everyone to do their job, and we need everyone to be safe. Since we announced the mandate just days ago, 22,472 new vaccinations among our city employees. Just over the weekend, after the 5 p.m. Friday deadline, what we know of so far, 3,564 new vaccinations. And continuing, we know more people will get vaccinated. Let me give you the update now. On some of our agencies. NYPD now at 84% vaccinated workforce, up from 70% at the time we announced the mandate October 20. Department of Sanitation at 83% of workers vaccinated now, up from 62% when we announced the mandate just 10 days ago. And then the fire department. On the fire fighting side of the fire department, as of this moment, at 77% vaccinated, up from 58% at the time of the announcement of the mandate. And then this is very striking, emergency management side of the fire department, at 88% vaccinated at this moment, up from 61% at the time the mandate was announced just 10 days ago. That's almost 30% more in 10 days. And again, that continues growing. City workers are doing the right thing. I want to thank everyone who got vaccinated. I know people had a lot of questions and concerns. Thank you for getting vaccinated. Thank you for doing the right thing. Thank you for moving us forward. More will. I know it. We saw it before with Department of Education. We saw it before with health and hospitals. More will. We need you to come back, get vaccinated, move forward. In the meantime, clear contingency plans have been in place, but as you can see from the numbers vaccinated, different reality than some feared. We have very strong numbers among our workforce. Contingency plans are there, but the good news is all the folks who have shown up for work today doing their job, and we know things keep moving forward. We're not seeing disruptions to any city services. We've got now approximately 9,000 city employees on leave without pay today. So let's do it again. 9,000 city employees in leave without pay status at this moment, out of a workforce of almost 400,000. So that's less than 6% of the entire workforce. Now again, every one of those 9,000 is welcome to come back, get vaccinated. We've got about 12,000 who have applied for a religious or medical exemption. That will be worked on over the coming days, and they'll get their answer. Either they get the exemption or they don't, and then they should act accordingly. If they don't get the exemption, come back to work. If they do, then they do. But let's be clear, our agencies, and I want to thank Commissioner Nigro, Commissioner Shea, Commissioner Grayson, and all the agency heads of all the agencies that were part of this mandate. They've done a great job continuing to move things forward, working with their teams, really smart, excellent planning and execution. We know right now, firehouses are open, no firehouse closed. Response times normal with fire, EMS, NYPD. Department of Sanitation did a great job. They don't normally pick up trash on Sundays, but they did this Sunday, and they did a great job catching up. A big effort yesterday. Crews out in full force. This has made a big impact. Listen, this mandate was the right thing to do, and the proof is in the pudding. We now see it worked. I want you to hear from someone who can talk about the impact this kind of mandate has on this entire country, because we're all connected and we have to get out of the COVID era together, and these mandates are the way forward. I want you to hear from someone who's played a crucial role advising the Biden White House on COVID response. He was the former administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. He's been a leading voice on how to get health care to people in need in this country. My pleasure to introduce Andy Slavitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm here in New York City, and what I will tell you is the proof is in Halloween. If you walked around the city yesterday, here's what you saw. Families in costume, restaurants filled, stores open, a parade like you can only find in New York, adults in elaborate costumes, at least I think they were costumes. I was wearing something like this. What I saw in short was New York City, a city able to return to normal, to life, to joy, with people secure in the belief that they were being protected from the virus because whenever they entered somewhere, they knew people were vaccinated. The word that kept coming to my mind yesterday was freedom. So I'm suspicious of the notion that asking people to be vaccinated and show our vaccination status is an infringement on our freedom. We've seen what that freedom looks like. It looks like fear. It looks like closed stores. It looks like sirens wailing and ambulances rushing to hospitals. It looks like our first responders at risk every time they need to perform CPR or enter an apartment. Is that freedom? I've been talking to leaders around the world and in our major cities, and the smartest countries around the globe and the smartest big cities like here in New York with Mayor de Blasio are recognizing that the key to their vibrancy is simple: giving people the freedom to feel safe in their environment, asking a little something of everyone for the benefit of everyone. So why do we need requirements? Conversation I had with a city worker may help. City worker was recently vaccinated, and he told me that he only got vaccinated because his employer required it. When asked why he hadn't before, he said, "I don't like shots. Why would anyone get a shot unless they had to? I was just waiting for that." It's tempting to focus on the loud holdouts. In our country, there will always be holdouts. It's part of who we are as a great nation that we can take active disagreement and make it public. But focusing solely on holdouts misses out on the one overarching important point, that no one of us is more important than all of us. That asking for small contributions from everyone for the benefit of everyone is what made us a great nation, and it's what makes New York a great city. So I support and applaud the mayor's efforts, and the progress that the city has made is only just beginning. The real results come from the surety that we will be able to prevent future waves and future damage, and this can be long lasting. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was truly eloquent. I mean it. You're defining freedom exactly right. The freedom of people to live their lives without fear, knowing they're safe. And it does take all of us. We're all in this together. And I agree with you. You know, the vast majority have spoken. Andy, you'll appreciate this. Right now, New York City, 5.72 million adults have received at least one dose. Now about 86% of all adults. That's an astounding supermajority that have said, yes, this is the right thing to do. And the mandates have helped to get us there. So thank you for the way you defined the freedom we need, which is the freedom to go on with our lives. And thank you for all you're doing to help move us out of this crisis. Very much appreciated. All right, now everyone, I want you to hear from someone who from the beginning believed in these mandates, and he knows a lot about the work that our city workers do because he's chair of the City Council Sanitation Committee. He was out talking to sanitation workers in recent days about how important it was to get vaccinated. Really appreciate his leadership and his voice. He's a council member today. He's about to be formally elected the borough president of Brooklyn. My pleasure to introduce council member Antonio Reynoso.
Thank you so much, Mayor de Blasio. And I just want to say, Andy, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your words. This is what folks need to be hearing right now. I want to talk about New York exceptionalism. You know, for many, New York City is the greatest city in the country and arguably the greatest city in the world. But to be great, we need to be first. We need to be smart. We need to be aggressive. And we need to be a model. And that is what's happening here today. Mayor de Blasio has put us in a position to be leaders, to be the first, to show people the way that we're going to get out of this dark time that we've all been struggling through. I don't want to take away from the fact that people have lost parents, they've lost sisters and brothers, uncles and aunts. We've had folks that are working in the front lines that are doing more work than they should, suffering through this as well, having to take a pause on their emotional heartbreak to do what's right for the city of New York. The sirens that Andy was talking about every single day and how we suffered through that, locked up in our homes, not able to come out, only for essential items. That is the life we're coming out of. And we finally have to put an end to it. For it's an episode that should never happen again, that we should be better prepared for. And what we're saying today is that we're going to take the first step in this country to let people know that we are going to be vaccinated. We're going to mandate it from the people that are taking care of us, like the Department of Sanitation that I hold dear in my heart and that I am so grateful for, the work that they do every day. So it's about time because we are exceptional. We are extraordinary. We are New York. So I want to just thank Mayor de Blasio because this is not easy to do. This is a huge risk that is going to get us the highest of rewards. A city that can go back to enjoying itself, to celebrating, to loving, to being great. So thank you so much, Mayor de Blasio, and thank you everyone that is on this panel. And because I am chair of the Department of Sanitation, I just have a soft spot in my heart for them. I love them dearly, the work that they do every day, picking up our trash, so much so that when it doesn't get picked up, we notice it right away. I want to thank you all who took it before the mandate, are taking it during the mandate. It doesn't matter how you get here. It's important that you just get here. Thank you so much. Love, peace, and spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Thank you.
Amen. Well, I got to tell you, you caught the vibe from Andy Slavitt, and you did your own thing there, Antonio. That was beautiful. A beautiful statement, passionate statement about the city and what we need to do for each other. And you also said something very touching. We remember those sirens in the night. We remember what that pain was. We can never go back to that. And this is why these mandates matter, because we've got to never let down our guard. We got to finish the mission of ending the COVID era. So thank you. Thank you for your leadership.
No, thank you, Bill. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you're right now that you're doing this. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. So I want you to hear from one more city leader who's also been a believer that this is the approach that works. He's stood by it every step of the way. He's fought for it. Been a leading voice in the city council, but now about to be formally elected as the next comptroller of the city of New York. My pleasure to introduce from my own council district, Council Member Brad Lander.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, here in the 39th District, we'll be excited to welcome you back home. But for today, I want to say thank you for having the courage to implement these mandates and to do it in a way that is delivering in such a significant way. The numbers that were released over the weekend are so deeply encouraging to see. The 91% of city workers have now stepped up and gotten vaccinated. I'm so deeply grateful to every single one of them. Thousands vaccinated over the weekend, amazing increases, as you said earlier, in so many places, our EMS workers. It is deeply encouraging to see, and I really hope all of our remaining workers will follow them in solidarity. I want to say, in that spirit of building our economy back, let's just remember why every single additional vaccination makes a difference. Because, you know, the difference between 91% and 92% in our public schools, that's classrooms where there won't be a case. And as a result, a whole classroom full of kids in the classroom getting educated, a whole classroom full of parents able to go to work and do their jobs and keep our economy thriving and earn what they need. Let's think about what it has meant that vaccine mandates have made it possible for Broadway to reopen. And now folks are going to see shows and able to get dinner and bring a restoration of our tourist economy. What an extraordinary opportunity. And also, when workers are able to return to the office, it's not only that they're able to collaborate with others, it means that the street vendor downstairs has somebody to sell breakfast and lunch to, that egg and cheese on a roll, that roti over lunchtime, the restaurants nearby. Every single additional vaccination is helping bring our city back to life. It's supporting other workers. It's supporting other families. It's a form of solidarity that shows that we can rise through crisis. And obviously, we know that we're going to need that in the years to come, that showing that we could find that kind of solidarity in this crisis makes it more likely we'll be able to do what's necessary as the climate crisis starts to have its impacts, as we're already seeing on our cities. I'm not quite as eloquent as maybe Andy Slavitt or Antonio Reynoso, so I'm instead going to resort to the words of Rebecca Solnit, who I find one of our most beautiful writers on what it looks like when we recover from crisis together. She says, our response to disaster gives us nothing less than a glimpse of who else we ourselves may be and what else our society could become. She says, the recovery of this purpose and closeness, even without crisis or pressure, is the great contemporary task of being human. And it seems to me that people stepping up together to get vaccinated, to encourage others to get vaccinated, are showing how we rebuild a city that's even better than the one that we've inherited and is more prepared for the future crises to come. So thanks for the leadership. Thanks to every city worker who's got vaccinated. 91% is great. Let's get it up to 100.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, council member. And look, you're going to be one of the people that's going to make a big impact on making sure that we do have a city that not just builds back better in those broad sense, but becomes a more fair and just city. I know that's a passion for you and me both. We can do it. We can do it. We can really have recovery for all of us. And I know you're going to be one of the people who makes it happen. So thank you for that.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, brother. So everyone, we've talked about how important it is to bring the city back and the crucial role of vaccination. And again, profound thanks to all our city employees who did the right thing and to everyone who will do the right thing going forward. Now tomorrow, we talked about a couple of folks there who are about to be up for office tomorrow. We know tomorrow's a big day, Election Day. It will decide so much of the future of our city. It's one of my favorite days of the year because there's just a lot of energy out there at the polling sites. I love early voting, but I also love the beauty of Election Day at the poll site. I'll be out there voting at my poll site in Brooklyn. And I want to tell you that a very powerful thing has happened in recent years, but it's been against the backdrop of so many other important events that it's kind of been missed, which is there's been something good happening to our democracy here in New York City. And I want to talk about the initiative we started a few years ago, Democracy NYC. And the idea was to increase registration and participation. This started out in 2018, and it's been growing. I want to give a special thank you to Laura Wood, our Chief Democracy Officer, and the whole team at Democracy NYC. They have been passionate, creative, energetic, in helping to reach people and get them engaged. They've reached 2.5 million New Yorkers over the last few years. And they've fought, and I've fought, for key reforms, and we've won a lot of those reforms, including in Albany. Early voting, online voter registration, some in Albany, some here in the city with the city council. Online voter registration, automatic voter registration, restoration of voting rights, pre-registration for 16-year-olds. These are big deals. These are the things that get people to renew our democracy and be engaged. And we're tearing down barriers that existed for a long time. And we actually have an opportunity tomorrow with the ballot measures to tear down more barriers and make voting even easier. And we need to do that. I got to say, even in the middle of COVID, our Democracy NYC team was out there encouraging people to vote, making sure it was safe, doing it the right way. And we saw it in 2020 and 2021, voter turnout up, turnout in the 2020 presidential election higher than in 2016, even in the middle of a pandemic. This city represented, this city showed an extraordinary spirit to participate. Turnout in the recent mayoral primary, highest in the last 30 years, amazing. So if you voted already, early voting, thank you. If you haven't, tomorrow's the day. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can go to findmypollsite.vote.nyc to get information on where to vote, and everything's on the ballot. Mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, city council, DAs, judges, great candidates on the ballot. I'm really excited about the future. I am very excited, and I've made it clear. The people will speak tomorrow, but I have a very strong view that they will choose Eric Adams, and I look forward to working with him on a strong transition. But I also don't want folks to forget the ballot measures that are on the ballot. 5 important ballot measures that speak to some of the most important things that we face. The fight against the climate crisis, a powerful ballot measure to address the need to focus even more on stopping the climate crisis. Ballot measures that will strengthen our democracy, make it easier for people to participate. I'm urging a yes vote on all 5 ballot measures tomorrow. I think they will make a big difference for all New Yorkers. And if you want to learn more about them, go to voting.nyc. Okay, let's go to indicators as we do every day. And with the good news, number 1, doses administered to date. We hit the 12 million mark and we kept going. 12,074,742 doses administered to date, more to come. And as early as the end of this week, we'll start to reach the 5 to 11-year-olds, which is really exciting. That's going to be so good for the families of this city. Number 2, daily number of people admitted to New York City hospitals for suspected COVID-19. Today's report 91 patients. Confirmed positivity 17.17%. Hospitalization rate, this is striking. Hospitalization rate per 100,000 people, 0.57. That is amazing. And again, we need it to keep going down. We need more vaccination. This is how we keep protecting ourselves. And finally, new reported cases on a 7-day average. Today's report 698 cases. Few words in Spanish about the vaccine mandate and our public employees stepping up and getting vaccinated. Nuestros increíbles trabajadores de la ciudad han demostrado de nuevo su compromiso de mantener segura su ciudad. Casi todos los trabajadores de la ciudad, el 91%, están ahora vacunados contra el COVID. Nuestra ciudad es cada vez más segura. With that, let's turn to our colleagues in the media. Please let me know the name and outlet of each journalist.
We will now begin our Q&A. As a reminder, today we're joined by Dr. Dave Choksi, Health Commissioner, Dr. Mitch Katz, President and CEO of NYC Health and Hospitals, Laura Wood, Chief Democracy Officer, Dermot Shea, NYPD Commissioner, Dan Nigro, FDNY Commissioner, and Ed Grayson, DSNY Commissioner. And with that, we'll go to our first question from James from Pix 11.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Mayor, and everyone on the call. Happy new month.
Happy new month. Is that we have a new phrase, happy new month. Happy November, James. Congratulations to the coveted leadoff spot.
Okay, I'll take it. Thanks very much. The firefighters unions are saying that a big part of a problem for them and their members is that they were only given 9 days to comply with the vaccination mandate, as opposed to the 30 or more days that, for instance, DOE and Department of Correction employees have been given. Can you, and maybe Commissioner Nigro as well, please respond to this complaint and how these members are also saying for them, this could be a life-changing decision because they may decide whether or not to retire based on this decision, and they only had 9 days in which to do it.
Well, James, I appreciate the question. I'll start and I'll turn to Commissioner Nigro after. I mean, right now, again, among firefighters, 77% have gotten vaccinated. Among EMS, 88%. I think that is extremely clear evidence that there was enough time to make a decision and people made the right decision overwhelmingly, and others will come in now and get vaccinated. Remember, first, we asked our public health workers to go get vaccinated under mandate. Then we asked everyone who worked at Department of Education, our biggest agency, and we kept saying we're climbing the ladder. There's more to come. There was lots of time for people to think about this. We had the phase of vaccinate or test. There was lots of time. There were lots of incentives. But it's been quite clear this was the direction we're going in. And it's the right thing to do. So I would argue, in fact, people had plenty of evidence to make a decision on. And we welcome them now to make the right decision if they're not yet vaccinated, protect their careers, doing incredible work in the most amazing agencies in the world, really. And it's time for people to come in and get vaccinated. Commissioner Nigro. Can you hear us? Maybe on mute. Dan Nigro. We may have it.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Here I am. As far as the time goes, back in December of last year, we fought very hard to get to the front of the line, as we should be, and offer the vaccine. We opened our own sites to vaccinate people. So for more than 10 months, every member of this department has had every opportunity to be vaccinated, as they should have been. So this 9-day issue is somewhat incorrect. Members have had 10 months to be vaccinated. I think that's plenty of time, and they can still be vaccinated now and come off. Those who are on leave without pay would then come off leave without pay. So we implore them to take advantage, come here, get vaccinated, and move on.
Amen. Amen. Go ahead, James.
Thank you both for that. Also, on behalf of my colleague, Nicole Johnson, this is for you, Mr. Mayor, and for Commissioner Shea. Can you talk about the shooting death in Harlem of Alberto Alpo Martinez, a known Harlem drug kingpin, who was shot yesterday, right across the street, actually, from a precinct in Harlem on Frederick Douglass Boulevard? Are there any leads in the case and any idea who might be behind this murder, and any other information you might be able to share regarding this case, please?
James, I'm going to turn to Commissioner Shea, but with a very basic preface. I don't know if people have sort of taken this in over the last few years, but I've had the honor of spending a lot of time listening to the commissioner and his colleagues over 8 years talk about the way they do their work. And nowadays, more than ever before in history, the NYPD, using a lot of different tools, including video, have been able to identify perpetrators better than ever before and find them, arrest them, prosecute them better than ever before. So we're dealt with a lot of challenges, but there has been a powerful story underneath that of the fact that it sometimes takes a little time, but it's almost inevitable that a perpetrator is found. So that's just a broad preface. On the specifics of the case, I will turn to Commissioner Shea.
Sure.
Yeah, good morning. So this is referring to the shooting that took place over the weekend. It was a shooting of an individual who was driving his truck. He struck multiple times. He continues to drive the truck approximately 4 blocks where he ultimately crashes and unfortunately passes away. It is a very preliminary investigation. We're looking into all aspects, what the motive may be, including his past. And we have, as the mayor said, every confidence that as the investigation proceeds, we'll find justice and find those responsible.
Thank you.
Next, we have Courtney from New York One.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good, Courtney. How you been?
I'm good. Thank you. I wanted to follow up on the vaccine mandate, specifically on this issue of sick leave at the FDNY. We obviously heard over the weekend that 2,000 firefighters or more than 2,000 firefighters have been calling out sick, and it's, I guess, related to the mandate. Can you weigh in on that? And can you also let us know if we're seeing any other trends like this at any of the other agencies?
I'll start and I'll turn to Commissioner Nigro. Courtney, to your last point, no, we're not seeing that trend elsewhere to the best of my knowledge. Second, I want to say it is imperative that everyone come to work and do their job. The people of this city, the taxpayers of this city, rely upon all our public servants, particularly our first responders. And we have a lot of respect and a lot of love for our first responders. But I'll tell you, the people are troubled. I've heard this plenty of times over the years. People get really troubled really quick when people don't show up to do their job if they're not really sick. And we have every reason to believe there's a lot of people out there claiming to be sick who are not. It's not acceptable. So the thing to do is to do the right thing, come to work, protect people as you took an oath to do. And look, this is something that we don't tolerate. In the end, when people do this kind of thing, there are consequences. I think the smart thing for everyone to do is to recognize this decision was made for the health and welfare of all New Yorkers. It was affirmed in the courts many, many times. The democratic process worked here. There were appeals, there were opportunities for reconsideration, and the court spoke. It's time to recognize this is the law. Get back to work protecting the people of this city. Commissioner Nigro. Commissioner Nigro, you may be on mute.
Here I am. Yes, thank you very much. Since the mandate was issued, our medical leave spiked up, and we know that's related to protests against the mandate. It's obvious. Generally, 200 people come into our medical office every day. And this past week, it's been 700 a day. The majority of them are unvaccinated. This is completely unacceptable. Thanks to those who are stepping up to fill those spots, the department is functioning quite well. And I would say too, our officers union, our fire officers union, is not participating in this medical leave and issued a statement as such. And our EMS unions are not either, but our firefighters most definitely are. I asked them to rethink this, to remember their oath of office. It's not only affecting the people they serve, it's affecting their brothers and sisters in the department who are forced to fill their spots day in and day out. And thank goodness for them.
Thank goodness for them indeed. Go ahead, Courtney.
I guess continuing on this line of questioning, I'm curious if there's some fear if you have more than 2,000 firefighters not coming into work, how this will affect companies and how will it affect response times as well. The same goes for PD. When I realized, that the vaccination rate ticked up a lot, which is great, but you still have 16% unvaccinated. So what's that going to do for NYPD response times as well?
I'll start and I'll turn to Commissioner Shea. Courtney, I want to commend Commissioner Dan Nigro and his whole team. I want to commend the union leaders who are doing the right thing. Very powerful statement by one of the EMS union leaders about the need for people to get vaccinated. As Commissioner Nigro said, the fire officers sending a powerful statement. It's time for people to come to work, do what's right for the people of this city, do what's right for each other. We are seeing in the fire department continued strong, good, normal response times and firehouses open across the city. So in fact, the people who have shown up, the vast majority of the people who got vaccinated, the vast majority are doing the work and they're shouldering the burden for the others who are not participating. It's not fair, but they're doing the job, and I commend everyone who's doing the job. and protecting their fellow New Yorkers. And that's what's going to see us through this. We're quite confident. In terms of the status of NYPD, Commissioner Shea.
Hey, Courtney. So, I mean, the most recent numbers, I know we said 84, it's up to 85 now, so it's gone up another percent. I think, you know, with that remaining 15%, it's very important to remember that there is a process where people can request reasonable accommodations for both religious or medical reasons. And that's the vast majority of that 15%. So those will be looked at, determinations will be made. We think we're in really, really strong shape here. I mean, members of the police department, you know, responded to this. They came to work as they always do, and there is literally no effect on service at this point.
Amen. Go ahead.
Next, we have Andrew from NBC.
I want to try to clarify here about whether there's no impact on city services today or a manageable impact. You had indicated last week that the observations that there's some kind of sanitation slowdown, delay in trash pickup is an impact. And with folks who are on the fire department covering other shifts, you're not saying there's absolutely no impact, are you?
Well, let me say it this way. I'll turn to Commissioner Grayson for the sanitation situation, but I've been monitoring literally hour by hour, Andrew. NYPD functioning fully, normally. Fire department, in terms of fighting fires and emergency services, functioning normally. Response times normal. People are picking up the slack. Remember, in the worst of COVID last year, you had 20% of the workforce out with COVID. This is a situation that people have dealt with before, and they made it work, and they're making it work even better now, thank God, because we're in a much better situation overall. Sanitation, we did have several days with a real problem, but Commissioner Grayson and his team did incredible work to push hard to get people to catch up, including requiring Sunday service yesterday, which isn't normal. A lot of catch-up occurred. He'll go into the details. I also want to say the Sanitation Workers Union has stepped up and sent a message that people need to get vaccinated, need to get back to work. So what we're seeing, with the exception, unfortunately, of just a few elements of labor, we're seeing a lot of labor leaders come forward and say, okay, it's time. We've got to protect people. We've got to do the right thing, and we've got to serve the people of the city. It's having a big impact in addition to the strength of the mandate and the vast numbers of people who are choosing to get vaccinated is encouraging everyone else to get vaccinated. It's just human reality. So I feel very good about where we stand. There's some catch-up going on with sanitation, but I feel good about the track we're on for sure. Commissioner Grayson, give us an update.
Good morning, sir. Yes, so our vax numbers have continued to go up, as you mentioned, and yes, we did experience a delay and a service, a gap that we were making up throughout the week. Ours is a very visible service to all New Yorkers, as we well know. So with 12,000 tons coming out every single day in the residential areas, once you get a little bit behind, it's going to take a little while to right the ship. We have full staffing in place throughout the weekend. We did work the extra service day on Sunday to do the best we can to catch up. And as we push forward into this week, we've had a huge increase from the time the mandate was issued into now, up to a little over 20% where we are from when the mandate was issued, and that number grows by the day. So the mandates have put us back into a very healthy position as far as available manpower. We're continuing to make up the backlog service. We believe we will be day on day, meaning Monday material only, at some point today, and we're going to continue that throughout. We have people in place to be working in tomorrow. Tomorrow's election day. We will have crews out working to address situations and continue the trend and continue to service litter baskets and do good things for the people in New York. And I too would like to commend my workforce who worked through the weekend, took on the extra tours away from their family to help us get back into a position. And I do want to humbly say to all those who experienced the delay up until now, my sincerest thank you for your compassion. Definitely a polarizing time. I'm happy where my workforce is, where they're going towards vaccination, and we're looking forward to the rest of the week.
Amen. Thanks for your great work, Commissioner. And all the commissioners here, I just want to say to Commissioner Grayson, to Commissioner Shea, Commissioner Nigro, and their whole teams, everyone's been working very hard for days and days to get this right, and you can see it, what's happening today in this city. Things are moving forward great examples of leadership out there. Go ahead, Andrew.
Mayor, if on balance, city services are continuing relatively uninterrupted, are you not saying to New Yorkers that maybe we don't need 11,000 firefighters or the number of police officers we have right now? If you're missing 6% of the workforce and city services are relatively uninterrupted, isn't that an indication that you have too many?
Look, Andrew, I want to first of all express my respect for our city workers who have done extraordinary things over the last 2 years especially, but even well before that, obviously. I have a lot of respect for our city workforce. And I'm someone who has supported having a strong city workforce, having an ample city workforce, because it makes such a difference. They've been there for us time and time again. Look, future leaders are going to determine what makes sense, how we handle things in the future, what our means are, and what we can afford. But I do think when city workers do the right thing, the public believes in them even more and wants to support them and wants to keep their agencies strong. And when city workers, such as those who are choosing not to show up to work even though they're not sick, when they do that, they start to lose public support. They start to get the public, in fact, angry that people are paying taxes but not getting the service they deserve. So if anybody out there is faking being sick, you're doing the wrong thing for yourself, you're doing the wrong thing for your department, and you're sending a message to people in the city, and they're receiving that message and they don't like it. So everyone needs to get back to work.
Next, we have Juliet from 1010 Wins.
Yes, hi. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and everyone on the call. We are hearing about reports of vandalism at least 30 sanitation trucks. The coolant hoses were cut and there were tires slashed in other garages. I was wondering if Commissioner Grayson can fill us in on that, if that is in fact the case, and if there is an investigation.
Juliet, before turning to Commissioner, I'll just say this, and I appreciate the question. Anything that's going on, we're going to respond to immediately and tell the public what's going on. In the last 48 hours, there's been a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of reports, firehouses closed when they weren't closed, a lot of hearsay, honestly. The official answer, the factual answer, is going to come from each of the departments and, of course, from City Hall. We're going to keep people posted. If there's any issue, as we talked about with sanitation a few days ago, we acknowledged there was an issue and we talked about how we're going to fix it. And Commissioner Grayson and his team are fixing it as we speak. But there's a lot of rumor mill, and in fact, it's being done particularly by certain unions to try and make people worried. We're going to be really clear about what the facts are. With that, Commissioner Grayson, how do you answer that question?
Good morning, sir. Yes, we had one isolated incident where we had a place with a large number of trucks, some of them parked outside, where we had some vandalism to the vehicles. We filled out a police report. It was over a week ago. We do not have any recent acts of vandalism that are impeding our fleet operations, and we treat the matter very seriously. The matter is under investigation, and should anybody, we find out who it is, we're certainly going to be working with authorities to do all we can. But again, it was over a week ago. Some of those vehicles were parked out on the street, and we took every necessary step to make sure that we had enough fleet availability, and we've been in very good shape with our fleet throughout the entire week.
Thank you. Go ahead, Juliet.
So what exactly happened? How many trucks were affected? And were they inoperable? What was the vandalism specifically?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Actually, Julie, you had great intel. It was coolant lines, and the trucks were able to be repaired, and we were able to complete service in that community board. It was in Queens, and we completed service in that community board on time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Nolan from the New York Post.
Nolan? Nolan? You got him or not? Are you muted? Nolan, you may be muted. All right, if he's not there, we can come back to him if you can't hear him.
We'll come back to Nolan. Next, we have Steve from WCBS 880.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good, Steve. How you been?
All right. I wanted to first ask a somewhat direct question. I know there's been some folks maybe playing around with semantics here on fire companies versus fire houses. I know you said no fire houses are closed, but I wanted to ask what the kind of impact number is on fire companies, if any fire companies are closed or short-staffed this morning.
Yeah, I'll turn to Commissioner Nigro, but first say this, Steve. And I'm speaking as a Brooklynite who knows exactly where the nearest firehouse is. It's nearby. We care about it. We really appreciate the men and women who serve us. The people of the city want to know that firehouses are open. There's different staffing levels at different times in firehouses. The important thing is the ability to make a quick response. Response time is strong and consistent. So yeah, there's some people out for sure, and that has affected some companies. But remember, it's a huge department with very ample resources. In fact, there's redundancy built in. And that's the bottom line. That's why we want to emphasize to people, the service is there. The firefighters are there and nearby. That situation is being handled really well by the FD. In terms of specific numbers, Commissioner Nigro, if you have an update now, or we can get them to Steve as you get more.
Sure. As we sit here now, there are 18 units out of service. There are no firehouses closed. The fire department has 350 units. So let's take that in perspective. And if we went back a month on any given day, we might find 18 units out of service for training, for maintenance, for repair of apparatus and such. But in our contingency plans, we ended all of that so that we would have more availability. There are understaffed units, and that understaffing could end immediately if members stopped going sick when they weren't sick. And we hope that ends very soon, and we will go back to staffing our units as they should be.
Thank you. Go ahead, Steve.
I appreciate that. I wanted to ask second about the exemptions here. What kind of criteria is going to be looked at for these exemption requests, and why offer them in the first place? That we know that healthcare workers on the state mandate don't have a religious exemption. The CDC has offered very, very limited medical reasons why someone shouldn't get the vaccine. So why offer exemptions, and what will be looked at on these requests?
Steve, I think it was the right thing to do. I really do. We did this, the state started the process with the healthcare workers, the city with everyone who works at Department of Education. We took the position that there was a valid type of medical exemption, but it was narrow, it was rare, and there was a valid type of religious exemption, but also narrow and rare. And we laid out those criteria. And any worker has a right to put in a request and say, hey, I fit those criteria. And then they'll get a judgment. And then, as is true in our democracy, if the judgment goes against them, they have a right to appeal and offer more information. But then there's an ultimate decision, and they have to live by that decision. I think that's fair. I think that says to people that we really are listening. We're really going to take into account whatever information they put forward. But then there's going to be a final decision. For the vast majority of people, of course, the decision is no, they do not get an exemption. They have to get vaccinated, get to work. But we'll play that process out over the coming days. In the meantime, those folks do continue to work. But I just think that's further proof, Steve, that this was a fair process. We didn't seek to fire people arbitrarily. We didn't seek to withhold the opportunity for appropriate exemptions. We've tried to create a fair process. That's why 91% of the workforce said, yes, it was a fair process. They knew it was a fair process. They did the right thing. And we welcome back anyone who's not yet vaccinated. There's still time to make it right.
Going back to Nolan from the New York Post.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, Nolan, how you doing?
I'm well, Mr. Mayor. Really wish we could do these in person so they weren't constantly beset by technical glitches. First of all, I have a question for Commissioner Nigro. Exactly how many units are understaffed in addition to the 18 units that aren't currently in service because of staffing issues?
I'll turn to Commissioner Nigro, and again, with whatever details he has now and any that they're still being collected, we'll get to you certainly in the course of the coming hours, Nolan. But go ahead, Commissioner Nigro.
Sure. I think the number of units understaffed changes by the minute. I would just go with many units are understaffed, and I'll go back to the reason for that. the fact that just this morning alone, hundreds of people called in sick, adding to that number, which should be 4,000, currently at about 2,300. So once the members come to their senses and stop using medical leave improperly, they can help out not only the citizens of the city, but their brothers and sisters who are staffing these units.
Stating the obvious, that people who are inappropriately using sick leave in the fire department or any other department are facing very serious consequences. We have sick leave for a reason. We have sick leave for people who are actually sick, but when a city employee fakes it and puts other people's lives in danger, that's a serious thing, and there's going to be consequences for that. Go ahead, Nolan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I guess I have a follow-up question to that and a request for clarification as to the statistics, if you'll indulge me. First of all, how many members of the police department and of the fire department are currently out on unpaid leave, separate from the request for exemptions? And secondly, are you alleging that the fire department, that the union representing firefighters is engaging in a Taylor Act violation?
It's a very good question, Nolan. Let me tell you, we'll get you the exact details. The number of total city workers at this moment, total for a workforce of almost 400,000 who are on leave without pay, is approximately 9,000. So I'm saying the facts really clearly for everyone out there to hear. And I would urge everyone to get this and express this accurately. 9,000 at this hour have chosen leave without pay. They are not vaccinated. They did not validly apply for one of the exemptions. 9,000. Now remember, any hour, any of those 9,000 can say, wait a minute, I'm willing to get vaccinated and come back. And we saw over the weekend a lot of that happening, thousands of people changing their mind, coming back. To your second point, and we'll get you the breakout by agency, Nolan, I don't have that in front of me. To your second point, Nolan, let's be clear. We're watching very carefully. We're watching for any potential Taylor law violation. I want to make clear to the union leaderships. Now, I want to emphasize a number of union leaders in the agencies that were affected by this new mandate, in fact, have stepped up and said whether they agree with it or not, it is the law and it's time for people to follow the law. A number of labor leaders have actually been strong and noble in saying it's time to get vaccinated. And that has been very important. In a few unions, we're seeing the opposite, where the union leaders are not being at all helpful. Whether it rises to a violation of the Taylor law, whether these union leaders have now crossed a line, we are watching every single thing they say and do. Every email, every tweet, we are watching everything. If we see a violation of the Taylor law, we will be in court immediately. We all know that that happened a few weeks back. We took the corrections officers, Union COBA, to court for very clear Taylor law violations. They backed down quickly when we did that. If we see a Taylor law violation, we're going to act on it.
We have time for two more today. Next, we have Bob from the Chief Leader.
Thanks for taking the call. We got some call from some NYCHA employees that said that their understanding was they had to complete the entire course. That's the first and second vaccination to be able to come back to work. I know it's an independent agency, but could you tell us what's required across the civil service titles? Is it the one test, or are you required to do both?
Not test, Bob, not test. One dose of vaccine. Of course, people should then go get the second dose on time. That is also going to be tracked by the agencies to make sure people finish it. But to come back to work, to get your pay back, to be in good standing, you need to get that first dose. People could do that in a matter of minutes. So anyone who right now is on leave without pay who wants to correct could go down to any number of sites, get the dose, get the card, and get back to work and get their pay back. Go ahead, Bob.
And then the other thing, this is a little granular, but Local 1549, Eddie Rodriguez, DC 37, they represent the 911 call takers and dispatchers who've been so slammed through the pandemic. He had mentioned to me last week 500 of the 1,400 critical essential workers had not been vaccinated. Would the Commissioner Shea have an update, or would you know?
I'll see if one of the commissioners has an update on that number. Again, we saw an immense amount. I don't know when you talked to him, Bob, but I want to remind you, in the course of just days, we saw thousands upon thousands of vaccinations. We saw a huge uptick. So unless that information is very recent, it might be very different than you think. But does any of our commissioners have an update on that? Okay, we'll get that for you, Bob. We'll get.
All right, yeah,
okay. Go ahead. Commissioner Shea, is that you?
the recent numbers, it is, the numbers I had from this morning were on the uniform side of the police department. We had 34 people placed on the no pay status as of this morning. I would remind people that's 34 out of roughly 35,000 workforce. On the civilian side, it is slightly higher rate. It's 40 members were placed on no pay out of roughly 17,000 employees. That's very fluid. That could go up as the day goes on. It could also go down as people get their vaccination status. Regarding the 9/11 operators, we're in good shape. We're monitoring that closely. And again, I just remind people that what you're forgetting is the reasonable accommodation component of this. And then we expect, as those cases are reviewed and people are either granted or denied, certainly in the case of denied, people will choose to get the vaccines.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Go ahead.
Last, we have Erin from Politico.
Mr. Mayor, a couple of my questions were asked, but I do want to follow up. So with regards to these exemption requests, that number is pretty high, higher than the number actually being placed on unpaid leave. Is there a deadline, a specific time at which you'll have these decisions made, and then those who are denied are put on unpaid leave? And are you expecting? I mean, you've talked about the exemptions being very narrow, so are you expecting any substantial portion of these people to get the exemptions, or do you think most of them are going to end up in the same situation as the other 9,000?
A really important question, Aaron. Thank you. One, there's a number of requests. They have to be reviewed individually. There's an initial determination. If the employee wants to provide more information, wants to appeal, there's several steps in the process. So it will take days to play out for sure. And then, as Commissioner Shea said, someone, if they're denied, has the opportunity right then and there to decide, okay, now I'm going to get vaccinated. So there's a bunch of steps, substantial numbers we have to work through. We have to do it carefully and meticulously. It will play out over days. I don't want to prejudge except to say what we know from previous experience is that it was, certainly looking at Department of Education, we got a lot of requests for exemption. Relatively few were granted. The religious exemptions are pretty narrow criteria that we believe are very accurate, very fair. So I think you'll see a number of people ultimately find that the exemption is not approved, and then they still have that chance to correct, get vaccinated, come back. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thanks. And then with regards to the firefighters calling in sick, first of all, just one point of clarification because Commissioner Niger was breaking up for a moment. Did you say 2,300 called in sick? And when you've said they'll face serious consequences, what are those consequences?
Well, think about this, Aaron. There's disciplinary measures that can be taken in any agency, and if someone is faking sick leave, that means they're at that moment, they're AWOL effectively. They're not where they're supposed to be. And there has to be a consequence for that. So that's something every agency has their own approach to. But I want to be clear, this is serious stuff. First of all, if someone is out sick when they're not really sick, they are literally potentially harming their fellow New Yorkers because we need them where they should be. Their fellow members of service need them where they should be. If they are doing something that violates the standards of their own department, that violates their oath of office, if they're doing something that endangers other lives, the biggest thing they should be worried about is the moral question. Why were you not there when people needed you? And the danger of not being there. But on top of that, as employees, if they lied to the department, there are real consequences. There's a normal disciplinary process around that, and there's real consequences. Commissioner Nigro, just to clarify the numbers at this moment of folks who are out sick, could you do that again, please?
Sure. As of this morning, the total number was 2,300, which is a phenomenal number, which I say should be under 1,000. And this all happened from the day the mandate began to now, has continued day in and day out. And as you said, this is the biggest consequence here for each individual is the moral consequence, but the department is not without tools to look into discipline for these members. So I would implore them for both reasons. If you're sick, you're sick. It's a dangerous job. I get it. If you're not sick, I want to see you back at work.
Amen. And I want to say to all New Yorkers, Dan Nigro has literally devoted his entire life, his entire adult life, and this is a striking example. His whole adult life has been in service of the people of the city, protecting the people. His father before him, a firefighter his whole adult life. This family's done so much for New York City. He's saying it. If there's anyone who can speak with authority about life in the FDNY and how important it is for members to be there for each other, it's Dan Nigro. He's sending a message to his members, his employees, very clearly. If you're not sick, you have got to come to work for the good of all New Yorkers. And we're going to make sure to keep the city safe. I want to again commend Commissioner Nigro, Commissioner Shea, Commissioner Grayson, all the commissioners, all the people in city agencies who are making sure the city is running well today, and it is. And I want to thank every city employee who did the right thing and got vaccinated. I want to say to anyone who's not yet vaccinated, come back, get vaccinated, join us. We want you to be safe. We want your family to be safe. We want this whole community to be safe, and we want to move New York City forward. Thank you, everybody.